Taoiseach, yesterday, primary school principals were in here pleading for help. Over the past 2 years, heating costs have risen by an average of 37%, electricity costs by 35%, and insurance by 19%. 7 out of 10 primary schools ran at a deficit in the last 12 months. Almost 3/4 don't even have enough money to pay for cleaners and caretakers. More than half have had to fundraise for basic utilities. And on top of all of that, 28% of schools have a long-term vacancy rate, with that figure rising to 51% for Deis Band 1 schools and Gael schools and 48% for special schools. Taoiseach, is it any wonder many principals and their schools are at breaking point? They don't have the funding, the staff or the resources that they need to run their schools. Many schools can no longer afford cleaning staff and caretaking staff, so principals are working after hours to clean toilets and mop floors. They have to leave classrooms to fix broken pipes and clean up leaks from them. And they feel they cannot speak publicly about the issues affecting their school for fear enrolment numbers will go down and that the problems will only worsen from there. This is causing burnout, and 75% of principals have considered quitting. Taoiseach, this isn't just affecting principals, it's affecting teachers working in under-resourced and high-pressure environment. It's affecting parents, and crucially, it is affecting students. They're being taught increasingly by unqualified teachers who are filling gaps in the teacher supply crisis, and their education is suffering. And then there is the disproportionate impact on children who need special education. According to the NDA, the number of children with special education needs at primary level increased by 56% between 2017 and 2021. During that time, special education teaching hours and special needs assistance allocations were frozen or reduced, and additional supports are near impossible to get. Incredibly, the department have no idea of the number of children in mainstream classes with additional needs because they refuse to collect or accept data from schools. Taoiseach, how exactly is the department supposed to address the needs of students if they don't even know what they are? It is farcical. Even when schools are aware of additional needs for incoming students, they can't apply for the supports in advance so that the child is supported from day one. Taoiseach, primary schools need action, and they need it fast. They need immediate financial support to ensure that the basics are covered. SET and SNA allocations need to meet the level of need, and we need to address the teacher supply crisis and pressure on teaching principals. Taoiseach, do you acknowledge the problem that primary schools are facing? Do you agree that all of these issues and more need to be addressed? And if so, how do you intend to address it?
I think, Deputy, in any assessment of our education system, in particular our primary school system, it's one of the best in Europe. It's repeatedly in terms of PISA outcomes and results. I mean, in terms of literacy, in terms of numeracy, our system is very high up there in terms of outcomes. That needs to be said, because your narrative there was one of sort of unrelenting misery and almost a system that wasn't effective at all. The system has grown enormously, and the numbers of teachers has grown enormously, absolutely up dramatically. This government has reduced significantly pupil-teacher ratio, and you didn't acknowledge that in your presentation. In the last 4 years, it's been a singular success of this government and the Minister that we've reduced pupil-teacher ratio at primary school level. We've dramatically expanded the hot meals programme. We've significantly expanded the DESH programme, which comes with it increased financial allocation to the primary schools that would benefit from being included in the DESH programme and the various bands of the DESH programme. We have significantly increased the number of new special schools, the number of new classes for additional needs pupils, and the numbers of special needs assistants has risen dramatically. Well over 21,000 SNAs in our school education system right now. So it's not really, you know, I accept there are challenges, Deputy, but it's not good enough to come in and just give, if you like, everything's miserable and a disaster. without giving the other side of the coin, the fact is that there's been huge resources put into education over the last 3 to 4 years, both capital and current. We've increased teachers, significant number of teachers in our schools. We've increased the number of special needs assistants. And we have increased the number of special classes. And we have to do more. And then we've brought in the free book scheme, which is, I think, a significant resource to many children and their parents, because it really takes away a very tough cost and very severe costs on families and parents, bringing the free book scheme from up to junior certificate level. And I think we will be hopefully in a position in the next budget to extend that to leaving certificate. So all of those measures. And then during COVID, we substantially increased the capitation grants to primary schools as well, and also would have improved the situation around school secretaries and caretakers. That also happened under this government's watch. And we will engage with the primary principals school network. I don't know if that's the body you were referring to that met yesterday. I would have established that, or helped to establish that body when I was Minister for Education, to create a forum for primary school principals and also secondary school principals. I think there are challenges, and we will respond to those challenges, as we did last year in the cost of living package and other interventions that we made for primary schools.
Taoiseach, respectfully, it's not my narrative. That's what the principals are telling us, and I think it's really important that we listen to that. And they spoke about the things that you referenced there, the hot school meals and how welcome that is. But one principal gave the example of, you know, the contract for the hot school meals being 160,000, and that's more that they receive for all of the other costs they're covering. So while they welcome it, when they can't pay for basic things like cleaning the school, they don't feel like the funding is being allocated in the right place, and I think they make a very valid point. I recognise the increase in the funding for deaf schools, but what they're saying is happening is that that funding is being swallowed up because they can't fundraise in the same way that the other schools are able to. So it's not meeting the needs, the extra needs that the deaf schools have. And in relation to the book scheme, they really, really welcome that, but they're telling us loudly and clearly it's not covering the cost of books. In relation to the special education teaching hours, that's great that there has been an increase, but the crucial thing is here that people are not getting the special education teaching hours that they need. That is the key point and the key takeaway, and it needs to be addressed. Primary schools are the epicentre of every single community and therefore every single crisis. Things like the housing crisis means that people can't afford to live in Dublin to rent. There's all of these different issues. But when they affect other state agencies, they waitlist and they backlog. Schools can't and won't do that. So this needs to be addressed urgently. Can you please outline what you will do to address these issues?
Well, first of all, we'll focus on capitation and we'll assess the capitation issue, which is the basic income that goes into schools to manage and maintain schools on an ongoing basis. We will continue to invest in teachers across the full spectrum of issues that affect teachers, invest in training, particularly around additional special needs. Also in terms of special education, more generally, the National Council for Special Education, there will be an increased number of CNOs, for example, and also a change in terms of a more proactive role for CNOs in respect of engaging with parents of children with additional needs in terms of facilitating and helping them to secure places for their children, as opposed to the mother and father having to chase down a variety of schools in endeavouring to get a place for their child. And it's always been a long belief of mine that the council, through its seniors and so on, has to become more facilitative and more proactive in helping parents in that regard. But we will, and the book scheme has been a game changer for parents. There's no, and that money is adequate for that.